Let the Monday morning ruckus begin. I am Jay Cleveland Payne, and this is Things You Might Have Heard. We'll present for you in moments the weekend's latest in information, politics, current events, and pop culture news. This is your go-to supplemental source for both mainstream and unconventional news stories. Some you have missed because they aren't covered. Some you missed because there's way too much news out there. But we attempt to give you some context, added things to you, things you may have hit, and some things that you might not have gotten on the beaten path. Now, we're going to give you 10 stories this morning total, including our teaser story from the graphic we have here with Usher, which is a big deal, but 10 total stories this morning that were vetted by you all weekend long and, of course, created for me for this here. We'll explain how that works in just a bit, but we'll remind you real quick that we have our main website that houses everything we do at thisisaconversationproject.com. Check it out for more details on the behind the scenes and the in front of the scenes things we provide for you basically 7 days a week with newscasts and information to get to things. 10 stories today. Let's get to them. Starting off with our first story right now today, of course, is Monday, the 25th of September, 2023. First headline reads like this. Mass gunmen attack Kosovo police and kill one officer in an escalation of tensions in Serbia. This was the top story for the weekend. Oddly enough, it wasn't very much coverage as I could see in many of the newscasts because a lot of people were talking about other big stories we have, including Usher and Bob Menendez and Colorado. We'll get to them, of course. But a big deal news-wise for folks that are conversational, people that were responding to the feeds here, you guys, was this story. A Serb gunman dressed in combat uniform killed a Kosovarian Albanian police officer and stormed an Orthodox monastery in Kosovo, setting off gun battles that left 3 assailants dead and raised tensions between the 2 former wartime foes. Kosovo, the diocese of the Serbian Orthodox Church, said the gunman stormed the temple of the monastery of Banska, and Serbian President Alexander Vučić said the gunmen were local Kosovo Serbs, quote, who no longer want to stand in Kurti's terror, unquote. Vučić denied that Belgrade had anything to do with the attack. This is a larger story than we can present here because we have bunches of get to and not a lot of time. So if this is one that you are really, really into and you missed it, check out the links in our description for the stories today. You can go deeper into this one and see it on its own. Whether this one will grow into a larger story that we'll cover continuously, this one particularly, we don't know. But we do know that tensions are rising all over the place, and that's nothing new, something that's just us, U.S., the thing. But right now, this seems a big deal going on between Serbia and Kosovo. A dead body, a 13-foot alligator found in Florida on waterway, officials say. That's the headline we pulled from the original story from USA Today. This story actually updated quite a few times, although the actual details did not change. The human remains were found essentially inside of an alligator, about a 14-foot alligator on Friday. Cause of death still under investigation. Essentially, the gator was eating the dead body. It was determined to be the body of a woman who was known to be trespassing in wetlands and things like that. You can go to other stories and get the full details on what's going on. But the fact that the gator was so large and tried to eat a human-sized person was the thing that basically set off all alarm bells that this was a thing. Like I said, this was one that kept popping up in various different places with more details here or there. So this is a story that got much more love than you would think it did. But the number 2 story for the week for you guys, or for the day, weekend, I should say, is this one right here. This one is updated from essentially what the headline said. On Friday, we posted that finish line working on a fine print. And this was something all day Saturday as they were running through in some late minute details on Sunday. Come this morning, the headlines say the writers are back, although they're still signing some paperwork. They may be back to work as early as tomorrow, and we're going to probably talk about that going forward. But the fine print is essentially done. It's all basically waking people up to get things signed, to letting people know what's going on, and getting the studios back to writing. Now, acting, that's still there, but this will essentially sort of trigger the SAG-AFTRAs to get their things together, their houses in order to get back to work. Deals will be told as things get done by tomorrow. Senator Bob Menendez and wife Nadine indicted on bribery charges. We went into detail on this one in a couple ways over the weekend with some short videos to kind of just explain what was happening. Fairly simple. Bob Menendez, who's been indicted once and got away not on a acquittal, but essentially just a mistrial. Essentially, they had to throw the charges out. Indicted again about 10 years to the day of the original indictment, originally found on bribery charges of those times. This time, he is accused of influencing things happening locally and abroad, both trying to push his weight around in things locally and for the government of Egypt as a part of his foreign affairs connections. How was he paid? Cash, a luxury vehicle, and yes, gold bars. Like a Bond villain, he has gold bars. And part of how they found him was a search on Google saying, how do you trade in gold bars? What can you buy for gold bars? A gold bar is good for anything. Can you melt them down and make little necklaces? He did that part I made up. But essentially his Google searches on what to do with gold bars led them to the fact that he owned these gold bars and where they come from. Mr. Menendez, that's being Robert Bob Menendez, says nothing's wrong. It's all, he didn't say witch hunt. He's saying it's scandal and slander, those words, and he's not going anywhere. In fact, he's probably going to announce today in his first public speech since the indictment, he's running for re-election. Already folks are trying to primary him going forward. We shall see if Bob Menendez will survive this, whether in the courts or in politics. The headline you've all been waiting for. Usher, the headline, the 2024 Super Bowl halftime show in Las Vegas. What's the Las Vegas show without a Las Vegas show? And Usher is going to bring the heat this year. Of course, he is, very famous singer. Starting off, people who follow Usher in his early days started from his awkward kind of chubby phase, and he turned into from just being Usher, the guy that was hanging out with Ben Vereen, to Usher, the super mega star that he is. And the memes are going, the posts were flying, and the biggest things that people were showing and shining that when he hit the stage with Luda and Little John and does even the crazy folks who say, why don't we have more country acts on this thing? Those guys are going to go nuts. This is not Rihanna. This is not Jennifer Lopez. This is not the R&B classics that was Dr. Dre last year. This is something that hopefully everyone will love. And yes, you can complain that they don't have as many country acts on here. But remember last time that Coldplay was there. Not quite country, but that was overtaken by the fact that Missy Elliott was on with Coldplay. And that's why those guys aren't there. Sorry. Next story for the morning reads, a headline at least reads like this. This rare Bob Ross painting could be yours for close to $10 million. The original painting from the start of the art of painting is on sale for $9.9 million. That's the asking price for this one. Should be the most expensive Bob Ross piece ever. And why are they so expensive and why are they in so demand? Because there's not that many of them. Bob Ross had like over 400 episodes of The Art of Painting. So he painted a new picture 400 times on PBS, and he painted them around the nation and painted them before and after and taught classes on how to paint his way. Yet there's not a lot of paintings out there that are owned by people or collectors. The original painting was bought for $100 from Ross, from a PBS volunteer, by a PBS volunteer, and then turned into another buyer who's going to try to sell it. The man who has it, the first name's on here, but the man who owns a gallery was like, I really want to keep it because it's history, but he can make a penny off it. 10 million pennies off of it. So it's up for sale. I'm not sure if it's actually been sold yet or if it's been for auction, but check it out on the internet if you want to get your own Bob Ross. It was only $100 originally, so the markup's quite a bit, but check it out for yourself. Wheel of Fortune under new host Ryan Seacrest reveals what will change in the most clickbaity title in the history of clickbaity titles. Nothing. Absolutely nothing. Other than maybe a Seacrest out. Ryan Seacrest says, the formula works. We're not going to change it. Not going to do a thing. We're going to show up. We're going to do this thing. We're going to point at the letters. People are going to spell things. It's Wheel of Fortune. Ain't nothing changed. Seacrest out. In fact, the only thing that's actually changing is Ryan Seacrest, as Vanna White has signed a big old deal so that she'll get paid close to Seacrest money to stick around for the duration of whatever will last for the things. Now, with all these shows changing hosts because the hosts are either extremely old or extremely dead, you're seeing changes in the way people are working with these shows, such as Jeopardy, for example, and things like that, and the way that people are exchanging with talk shows and with game shows as they're turning into more fodder for summer sweeps and just lack of writing for work, if you will, as opposed to things you tune into every day because they exist. I don't watch Wheel of Fortune religiously anymore. I don't watch Jeopardy religiously anymore just because timing, and I've gotten older and my sort of schedule has changed. But looking in the past, as I look in, past and, when I was younger, my father was my age, this was the thing we watched. We watched the news every night, then we watched Wheel of Fortune, Jeopardy. This is what you did. And now, because of the way things work, it's not. It's kind of sad, and nostalgia can kind of get in the way of things. But it just is a reality. If the real reality is that Ryan Seacrest is taking over Wheel of Fortune because he doesn't have enough jobs, and he says he's not changing a thing. Change coming to McDonald's, which may or may not affect you. Will affect you, but you may not notice it so quickly. They're going to raise the royalty fees for new franchise restaurants first time in nearly 30 years. So if you want to get in on McDonald's, you need to get in before January 1st because franchise fees go up by 4 to 5%. Doesn't sound like a lot, and it doesn't really make it unaffordable, but it is an increase in the first time in 30 years. So obviously the price of admission for McDonald's not quite sticking with inflation, and because of the way money works, the corporation McDonald's is trying to make a little extra going forward. It's still pretty affordable to get into McDonald's, one of the most popular franchises out there, and easy to run because everyone knows what's at McDonald's. But if you want to get in on the bottom floor and get yourself a franchise, a little extra cheddar coming in a few months. CVS pharmacists stage walkout over working conditions, leaving pharmacy counters closed. A group of pharmacists at a CVS in Kansas City across the metro essentially walked out of work one day, leaving the pharmacy just out there open, or in some cases, as you've seen some memes online where people walked into CVS's and nobody's been there. This is turning into a trend that's becoming a thing for CVS's particularly, and many other places in general that are dealing with crime and just conditions that are working with. A lot of these places are in places that aren't the best parts of town, and shoplifting, crime being held up, if you will, is a thing at pharmacies such as CVS and Walgreens. One, because they've got drugs, and two, because the way they're staffed and the way they are built, it's kind of easy in some cases to kind of walk in, grab a handful of expensive cosmetics, and run back out without being stopped, without being encountered. Because of that, this is one case in Kansas City where they walked out to get some notice, see what's going on. This is one that you probably actually missed over the weekend because it didn't get as much mention as possibly as many folks did, unless you're sort of digging through the internet for news like a person like me, or looking for things like this, giving you outside news. This is something to keep an eye on, and I'm sure everyone has heard about the issues that CVS particularly, and Walgreens and many other drugstores have on the West Coast in areas like San Francisco. This is basically a nationwide thing, and this is something that's going to be an issue for you if you're looking for a fast place to shop, like such as a CVS or Walgreens. You may not have very more of them because the conditions that they're worked in are being extremely, extremely exploited. We can't leave without hitting this one. Internet destroys Colorado during Beatdown versus Oregon. Colorado, which is now America's team, or Black America's team, if you want to be succinct about it, because of Coach Deion Prime Time Sanders, got the first loss this week and got the first loss big time. Now, it wasn't the blowout that the Dolphins put on this week, but it was pretty big, pretty bad, and it was kind of expected. The Colorado Buffaloes took on the Oregon Ducks, and Oregon's always a powerhouse, and they were also undefeated, and they suspected that the suspecting things in Colorado's defense and maybe some of their offensive things that may have been miracles for 3 weeks prior would be issue this week, and they were. Now, here's the deal. People got a chance to bounce back and bite on Deion Sanders and the Buffaloes because it's the internet, but guess what? As Deion has on his shirt, I ain't hard to find. He's not backing away from this. He said they played like trash. He said they need to bulk up. And their next game, which is going to be versus USC, they were expecting one of these two games they were going to have to lose. One's down, so they're going to build back up to be better for USC. And the quote from Deion Sanders is simply, "You better get me now. I'm at the worst that we're going to be. Next week, it's going to be different. If you want some, you better come get some right now." America's team, Black America's team, the Colorado Buffaloes, ain't going anywhere yet. First games may look like they weren't flukes, but this game right here exposed the fact that no one goes through life undefeated. We'll see about Georgia. We'll say that on that end. But it's a hard road to go to get this place, especially since last year they were a one-win team, and essentially 60% of the team this year has been recycled with new players. We'll see how this plays out going forward. Literally, because it's sports. For apologies, errors, and omissions, we're going to talk very quickly about the Pennsylvania jail. Will Danielio Calvante escape from prison? They're going to spend $1 million, millions of dollars, more than one, millions maybe plus 2 or 5 or whatever, for security improvements. And we may have actually covered this on Friday because it seems very familiar. A lot of things for the news seems familiar because it covers from the weekend to the weekend. But because the guy was able to just kind of literally just sneak out on camera, just kind of, crab walk, do a little, Cupid shuffle out the door, they think they may need to spend some money to fix things up. We think so as well. We're going to talk right now about our teaser story for the day. And this is where we explain how the feeds work and how you tell us what we talk about every single day when we provide this here and for our weekend shows as well. When you go to Facebook and X or Twitter, it still says Twitter when we click on it, so we're saying Twitter continuously, you will get a chance to see news stories that we post every 50 minutes from various sources. Some of them you may love, some of them you may not love so much. Some of them may seem pretty fringe because they're pretty close to fringe. We cover all sorts of news, all sorts of sources, so you can get those conversational infos and things that you really, really would say, wow, that's interesting. This one we got from CBS Texas, CBS News as the overall. The headline reads, Mexico makes agreement with U.S. to deport migrants from its border cities amid ongoing surge in illegal migration. This is a big story you'll hear about all day today and the next coming days, as Mexico is going to basically stop people coming from southern and other parts of Central America at their border and send them back home there, instead of letting them come all the way to the United States border and hang out. Essentially choking off a choking point for the migrants coming through to make it a lot more easier for America to deal with the migrants that do make it all the way past by sending the ones that they can catch going forward. Will we talk about this one tomorrow or other stories that you've deemed conversational? Facebook.com/This Is a Conversation Project and Twitter.com/TH_conversation, TH_conversation, X.com/TH_conversation as well will get you to these stories. We post one every 50 minutes or so for you to engage in, and you just engage in it. If it looks interesting, love it, hate it, share it, like it, read it. The more engagement story gets, the higher score it gets to here, and the better chance we have to talk about it. We had over 90 stories for the weekend, Friday, Saturday, Sunday, and a little bit of Monday, and we presented for you 10 stories pulled from the top 30 in engagement. For the rest of the week, Tuesday through Friday, it will be the top 15 stories we'll pull, and we'll give you 8 of those to discuss here. So is this one of the top, or the big 8, I should say, the top 15, big 8 for tomorrow? You put it in the top 15, it's probably a big 8 story for tomorrow. Follow us on the feeds and find out what we'll talk about tomorrow. We're going to talk right now about our sponsor that we're going to spotlight today, and that's going to be YouTube TV. As we talked about sports, college sports this weekend, I bounced in the Miami game where they were 70-20, so literally beating a team by half 100 in the pros, which is never seen before and had never been done before. You could have caught all that action and big action by watching it on YouTube TV. Now, yes, you can watch it on regular TV if your local venue has the Dolphins on TV. But guess what? Maybe it doesn't. DirecTV, Sunday Ticket. DirecTV is not the home of Sunday Ticket right now. It is YouTube TV. So all games covered on YouTube TV. And if you want to watch picture-in-picture, multiple games at a time, YouTube TV does that on your app, on your smart TV. You can put it in picture-in-picture and watch multiple games on various sports at a time, for college, for football, for baseball, as the playoffs are continuing pretty quickly as October's coming here. YouTube TV is your place for sports. It's your place for movies, place for television. It's your place for everything, and it's time for you to really, really consider cutting the cord. We're going to offer you an extra $15 off their already great deal for getting onto YouTube TV if you use our link. Go to thisisaconversationproject.com/YouTube TV. This is theconversationproject.com/YouTube TV. If you think you're going to fight over TV, you get 6 accounts or 6 different DVRs. You can watch it on any device you want to. Get it right now. Go to YouTube TV and see our link at the Conversation Project and our sponsors. Visit all our sponsors' links at the sponsors page, but check out YouTube TV and get your sports on this season right now. The Conversation Project lives online at this. It's theconversationproject.com. Stop by our website and follow us on the feeds so you can see and talk about and give us what we're talking about every single morning. Email the show at theconversationinbox@gmail.com. Tell us what we're doing right and what we should do a little bit less wrong of. And make sure you stop by our partnerships page. If you want to see us do better things, look for ways that you can partner up and help us get things done. We appreciate all of that stuff well in advance. Whatever you are willing to offer up to us, we will take it gladly. So check it out for what's going on. Most important things is email the show and follow the feed so we have the words to talk about every single day. Now, I didn't actually promote it in this morning's open, but every single weekday morning we have what we call the fun stuff, the second show, the what makes it morning show-ish coming up, and it's coming up. Not is it coming up? It is here. It's starting right now. The fun stuff always begins on the day with a set of birthdays, and September 25th is no exception. Special birthdays on the day, starting in the middle, actually, with Will Smith turning 55 years old today. The embattled Will Smith is trying to make a comeback in Hollywood when, he's literally the whole fault of his own demise, or a family demise, if you will. There's nothing wrong with standing up for your family, but we know what he did to stand up for his family, and it's turned into memes and craziness all whatsoever. He's got some movies coming out. He's doing some stuff. He's done his comeback tour, and he's probably going to make his way back into our hearts because we all do. Everybody actually loves some Will Smith. We'll see what happens with that, but for today, we're going to celebrate Big Willie's birthday at 55. Double nickels on the day. Now, birthday twins, if you will, merry birthday twins, because they're not really twins. Michael Douglas turning 79 years old today. His wife, Catherine Zeta-Jones, 54 years old in the day. Yes, born on the same day. Yes. 30, 40 years apart. Yes. How's it work? I don't know. Famous people make it work. They're famous. They're making it work. Go with it. Michael Douglas and Catherine Zeta-Jones with their birthdays on September 25th. Let's do our history lesson for today, starting off in 1981, not too far back, but on September 25th, back in 1981, Sandra Day O'Connor was sworn in as the first female justice of the U.S. Supreme Court. At this point in time, we have four, actually. We have four, and another one we'll talk in a moment, another historic part on this one, but big deal as almost, because it's 9 people, a big chunk of the Supreme Court is now taken up by women, and that's a good thing. Going on to 2015, Caitlyn Jenner officially changed her name from Bruce and her gender to a woman. Now, you can dispute whether Bruce Jenner can now be a woman, but he can call herself Caitlyn Jenner all he wants to. Try to run for governor, trying to do other things. Essentially, now he's not a Kardashian, just trying to stay famous. Should have just kept on, showing up that gold medal and just going with that, but wasn't enough for him. Bruce Jenner turned to Caitlyn Jenner officially on this day in 2015. And in 2020, Justice Ruth Bader Ginsburg became the first woman to lie in state in the U.S. Capitol in Washington, D.C. The second woman justice in the Supreme Court, and another very pioneering figure in the actual the world, if you will, and it's definitely the life of United States politics, United States political culture, United States government. Ruth Bader Ginsburg, who essentially tried to live on through the Trump administration to keep another justice from taking her job because she was so afraid of what would happen. She did pass. She lied in state in the U.S. Capitol in D.C., the first woman to ever lie in state there. No links, no fanfare, just this reminder. 3 months until Christmas. Let me say that again. A little slower, a lot more calm. It's not December 29th. I'm having some issues. That's my birthday, and so that's stuck in my head. So Friday's my birthday, yeah. But September 25th, today, September 25th, today, this day, 25th of September, October, November, December, 25, 25, 25. 3 months. 1, 2, 3. I'm using my thumb for a reason, I don't know. 3 months until Christmas. No excuses. 30 days, more or less. You have time. 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 3 days. 3 months. 3 years. 3 months. 3 months until Christmas. Don't mess this up. And finally, one more thing you might not have heard. This is the worst joke of the year. Guess what? You're about to hear it right now. According to an online poll, the worst joke of 2023 is this one. I could tell it had been raining cats and dogs. I nearly stepped in a poodle. The runner-up. Doctor. Hi there. How can I help you today? Patient. I think I'm a moth. Doctor. You don't need to see a doctor. You need to see a psychiatrist. Patient. I know, but I was passing by and your light was on. And the second runner-up. What do you do if you see a spaceman? park in it, man. Now, these jokes seem like things that pulled out of, an 8th grade joke book that I may have read in my personal self in the 8th grade, not like my daughter. No, this is like stuff that's like 40 years old. So they're terrible jokes. They have always been terrible jokes, and they still are terrible jokes. Why we're recycling them? I guess it's nostalgia because we can't get away with them. So the worst jokes of the year so far, you've got them. Send all complaints to the conversation inbox at gmail.com. You can also send love and whatever hate you want to there as well. Today is Monday, the 25th of September, 2023. I am Jay Cleveland Payne. We are signing off for this edition of Things You Might Not Have Heard. Thank you so much for being with us for this edition. Whether you're one of the few people that were watching me live tell those horrible, horrible jokes at 5:50 a.m. Central Time, or if you want to watch this in a replay, listen in a replay, or just read the links. The links won't have the joke, so you'll be, if you want to, sort of save yourself from those things, you might want to go just get the newsletter. But those things happen every single day here on the internets. Every weekday we have Things You Might Have Heard, so check that out and get that as well. Make sure you're following us on the feeds to get us the words that are coming out of our mouth, and check out our partnerships page to see if there's ways we can group up. You must stay limber, you must stay hydrated, you must stay on task, because you must keep on keeping on. There are so many great important things that you're here for, so please keep on keeping on. In the meantime, we're going to keep on keeping on and do our best to hit that alarm at 4 in the morning and be here for you at 5:50 to get you going with the news stories that you told me to talk about. It's that simple. Let's do it again tomorrow, shall we? Hope we shall.